Mohr mentioned that, yes, we have the largest collection of resources for French-Canadian research outside of Canada. We have over 10,000 volumes in our library, over 3,000 rolls of microfilm. We have microfiche, and we have some collections that are unique to our area. One of the collections is the Forget file that exists nowhere else, and this is marriages of French Canadians in the whole state of Rhode Island from 1850 to 1900. And it's called Forget because it's a Dr. Ulysses Forget who was interested in genealogy, and as he traveled throughout Rhode Island, he would go to city halls and copy any marriages that had either the bride, the groom, or the parents with a French name. So this is a really unique collection, especially if you don't know where your parents or where your grandparents were when they first came into Rhode Island. We're also working because, you know, our title is American-French, and while our primary focus from our founders was to gather as much information as possible to make it possible to trace your French-Canadian heritage, we now realize that people no longer marry just within their ethnicities. And so we're starting to collect other resources so that our children and grandchildren will still be able to follow their genealogy. One of the things that we have been working on is gathering vital statistics for all the communities in the Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Corridor. So even if you had an Irish ancestor or a Swedish ancestor who came in to work on the canals, build the textile mills, not just work in them, we would have all that information also. One of the other things that we do as a society is we publish. So we also have gone out to get records, as Norm was showing you in one of the books here. We started, of course, with Canadian parishes that were known to have French-Canadian parishioners. If you remember, a few generations ago, a parish was either, it was Polish, it was Italian, it was French-Canadian, you didn't mix. So we started with all the French-Canadian parishes because we were tracing French-Canadians. But we have now started to go to other parishes. We've gone to funeral homes, so we have Italian and Polish funeral homes, not just French-Canadian, so that it makes it a more valuable resource for anyone tracing genealogy. We also have the vital statistics, birth, marriage, and death, for all the states in New England, archival records, the ones that you would see if you went, let's say, to the archives in Providence. We have the same copies in our library. There's no long waiting list to look at them, and we don't have a parking problem or a parking fee. And we're open on a Saturday, and we're open one weeknight, which if you're dealing with the government, you have to go through Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So if you're working, that leaves you out in the cold. We've also become a center for the Mormon records. That was last year. So if you want to access anything from the Mormon records, and they have gone to copy records all over the world, you can come and check the index on our computers, order the film through us, and then we keep it in our library for 3 weeks for you to come and see it. Now, I noticed quite a few of you put your hand up that you're French-Canadian or have some French-Canadian. For most of us, it would be our grandparents or our great-grandparents who immigrated from Canada. And if you're like me, before I started genealogy, all I knew is, well, we come from Canada. I had no idea how big a country Canada was. I didn't even realize that Canada wasn't French anymore, that it legally belongs to England. But for me, it was only French. So since going into genealogy, I have learned the highlights of French-Canadian history. And when you listen to this, you get a deeper understanding of what happened to your immigrant ancestor and why they made the change to leave their native country and go somewhere else. So I will give you just a little overview of French-Canadian history. It was founded in 1608 the city of Quebec was founded by Samuel Champlain, until after it was taken over by the Scots in the 1628. They came in and they just overwhelmed the few settlers that were there. They did not have permission to go there from the English or Scottish king, so 2 years later they had to give it back. So the French came back in for settling around 1630, 1632. And what the king did is he gave large grants of land to a few people, and their mandate was get in there and try to bring with you enough settlers to be self-sufficient. So you need a cobbler, you need a barrel maker, you need somebody who can dig a well, you need a carpenter. So they tried to gather this, get people to come, recruit them, and bring them in with promises of, well, you'll have a nice place, you can have land or whatever. But it didn't work out. Eventually what happened is now the land, the grant to develop the country went over to another group of people called les Cent Associés, which was the 100 Associates, and they had the same mandate. But their thing was also that they could reap the benefits from the fur trade, the lumber trade, in return for trying to build a country, to build people. Come 1662, little Canada had only 2,500 souls living in it, and it had been founded in 1608, while south in the Atlantic colonies owned by the British were 80,000 people. So the king was getting very nervous because in those days possession was the whole thing, and so it would have taken nothing for the British to send 2-3 ships up the coast and take over the country of Canada. So the king took back his land grants that he gave to these companies to develop it and said, I'm going to see what I can do. So he sent a man there by the name of Talon in French. He became an intendant, I guess like a governor. And his mandate was grow the population. So he had an idea. The reason that there wasn't a lot of settling is that you could get the men to go there, promise them land, which was fantastic because in the 1600s in Europe, no one owned land but the nobility. So to be given land was like to be given the moon. But there were no women for them to marry here. So the men would come, they would clear the land, and then it was like, okay, so now what do? I have nobody to share this with. And you needed a wife because you needed somebody to cook, to maintain the home, to grow the vegetables while you went out and took care of the animals and cleared the fields and whatever. You needed a partner.
So the most popular saying is, where the women at?
Yeah.
Right.
Now,